Laura, thank you for sending me the lesson plan in
Sure.
preparation for your lesson. I believe we're scheduled for Thursday afternoon, and this is our pre-conference for that lesson.
Yep.
I've looked through this. This is an exciting lesson. I'm looking forward to seeing it and being in the classroom, and I want to talk a little bit towards the end about some ideas I
Okay.
have about some other work that we can maybe do with it. It's around the herd immunity and the vaccination position paper, which I love that because I think it really ties into some of the work that Park is going to be doing around student researching and putting together position papers and pulling in a lot of different instructional strategies and standards within one lesson. I think it's a really good lesson. I did have a question about and just if you could just clarify some things to help me understand so I know what I'm going to be seeing in the classroom about the measles charts and graphs. Exactly what is that and how does it tie to the lesson?
So just kind of a back history on what we've been doing. We've been focusing on immune system in class, and so we've done some study of the immune system and how it functions and what role that the immune system plays in homeostasis in the body. And so this activity was to give them an opportunity to take a look about the differences that human beings make in terms of vaccinations and what can happen when a society decides to vaccinate or to not vaccinate, and what it means to have an immunity through the herd immunity. So there was a recent article in Time magazine about vaccination, and so I copied out the measles charts and graphs, and what it shows is kind of the spread of measles in different parts of the U.S. based upon where people choose to vaccinate, and parts of the U.S. where there are some segments of the population that choose not to vaccinate. And so they're going to look at that charts and graphs to kind of get into this, because all we've done so far is really just to talk about purely the immune system, its role in a body. The kids have an understanding of basically what it means to get a vaccine. Most of them have had a vaccine or two at least. And we talked about that as a group. And this is really going to look at a whole society and its decisions around vaccination.
And are you going to have just kind of a table talk or a class discussion around what is the information that's in those graphs?
So what's going to happen is they'll walk in and they'll have copies of those charts and graphs, and there'll be questions on there as their warm up when they come into the room. And then I'll be circulating during that warm up activity to kind of look and see how they're doing at reading those charts and graphs. And one of the reasons I always like to give them charts and graphs is they have a lot of exposure to those. As we know, they'll see them again on assessments. So I use that as an opportunity to work those in. And then we'll kind of go through our working vocabulary for the day, words that I've pulled out.
Which I see
Immunity,
here.
right, which they should be familiar with. Pathogen, we've done that before, is looking at the immune system. Vaccine, and then herd immunity is going to be a totally new concept for them today.
So that'll be the new information that's going to be focused. Okay, so that's based on that. That's great. And then you have your guided reading, and I understand you're going to be using Time magazine, but not just. My impression from here, you're going to have multiple different articles. Were there different articles?
Let me grab that. So what I did is, because I have various reading levels in my class. Yeah. So I have various reading levels in my class. And what I did was to go through and grab different articles about vaccines. And one is just about how safe are vaccines. Another is, one about how their child spread measles. Their child was not vaccinated. Another one is about how a state had an outbreak of the mumps. And then another one is about some concerns that have been expressed around a link between vaccinations and autism. So it's 4 different articles. 3 of them, actually all of them came from Time. And so they were all out in this major issue around vaccines. But what I noticed as I was looking at the article myself is they're at different reading levels.
Okay.
So
that's where you're differentiating here. I see.
And so what I really wanted to do was go through a guided reading activity where everyone would be reading about vaccines, but different groups in the rooms are going to be reading about different aspects of vaccines.
Great.
And this is to get them ready to have a class discussion to increase kind of their knowledge base, and was trying to do it in a quick way, and have everybody be able to participate in the discussion and not be necessarily hampered down because they couldn't read the one article. So I've broken up their groups kind of based on the reading level, and what I'm going to use is a Kagan strategy that's called Sage and Scribe as a way to have the pairs going through the articles.
Okay, and that's where the next part comes in. This will be the activity of the Sage and Scribe activity that you'll be doing. And then you referenced the talking point sheet. When you circulate and use that, how do you use that talking point sheet as you circulate around the room?
And so actually they move into the facilitated discussion. So what they do is in this guided reading activity, they're going to go through that and they're going to come up with different talking points that they can have for their article. So if the group was reading How Safe Are Vaccines, they'll have talking points to that article. Another group was reading How My Son Spread the Measles. They've got talking points to that. Then we're going to come back together as a whole class, and we will have 2 recorders for the conversations. And what we're going to do is do a facilitated discussion around should we vaccinate or should we not vaccinate? And they have to provide supporting facts from the articles. So they always have to go back. I can't just whip it out of the wind. I've got to come back to what we read. And at this point is when they're going to find out that they all had different articles. They don't necessarily know right now. So what we're going to do is then explain. This group read an article, da-da-da-da-da. This group read an article. And so we'll go through that. And then we're going to have the recorders record down reasons to vaccinate and reasons not to vaccinate. Because then they're ultimately going to take everything they've learned from previously about understanding the immune system from a biological standpoint to this information about vaccines, and then ultimately write a position paper. So they're either going to take the position of a Center for Disease Control employee who's in favor of vaccines, or they're going to take up the position of a parent who opposes vaccination, and they have to defend and support their position with facts that they got from today's lesson. And if they want to have a more advanced score on their paper, they have to go outside of class and find some other information about that.
And then they will write one paper that will be handed in at a later date. So I love the way the talking point is not a teacher created talking point sheet for each one, that you're letting the students create their own talking points to present to the class. How are you going to help facilitate the class discussion and keep it on track when you have 4 different topics going to try to tie them together? Are you going to do anything to help facilitate that?
Yeah, so I have kind of a preset question sheet. So I have a set of questions ready to go to facilitate the kids talking. We've done this before. And so we actually have a rubric for when we do facilitated discussions, and the kids will have that at the top corner of their desk. And so they understand that, in order to be proficient in a facilitated discussion, they have to defend their points using facts from the articles or facts from something else that was presented. They need to work to engage their peers in the conversation. They shouldn't dominate, but should contribute. And so we've been through that before. So this is going to be our 3rd time with it. And so I always have them. It's just a little rubric, and they have it out on the corner of their desk. And so as much as possible, we're trying to get into a point where I don't have to use my preset questions. So I'll start with one question to get it started. My hope is that this time I don't have to ask any more questions. The last time we did it, I had to ask, I think, 4 or 5 questions during the discussion, and it was a 20-minute discussion. So that was better, because the first time I think I had to ask almost every question. So we're getting it down. So my goal is that this time, with one question, they'll be able to run through the rest of it.
So you're really seeing some increase in student-led learning going on in the classroom.
I am. I've still got a few that I feel like I have to hover by in order to ensure that they get their voice in the room.
Okay.
So.
Well, I think it's great. I think your lesson plan, what you have going on here is it's excellent. The lesson, but also how you're engaging the students in their own learning in this. And what I would like to do, if it's okay with you, is I would like to videotape this class with you
Eee.
to come in and videotape this so we have it as a bank of a lesson showing, especially around student engagement, and to show how to pull students into a facilitated discussion in the class, how to set that up, because your expertise and your years of teaching are really coming through here. You have a process that I consider very excellent for moving forward with something
Okay, I'm a
like
little
that.
nervous because I still feel like I need some support around what I do to develop kids as writers. So perhaps then, if we're going to do this, then we could use it for me to also get some feedback around some things that I could do with
Okay.
writing.
Mhm.
Okay, a little nervous about
But you're
that.
nervous about it going out. But
It's just kind of nervous
just
about it going live.
okay.
So,
Well, we can talk about that.
okay,
We can
but
talk, but at least to get the videotape
But I
done,
think
and
it-
then for yourself, if there is a specific area,
mhm.
we can talk about that after the lesson, after I observe.
But it'd be good for me to watch it from a standpoint of just where I am in the room and things like that. And I think it would also be good to see how the facilitated discussion plays out. And I'm thinking also could use it to play back for the kids so they could watch the facilitated discussion as well.
That's great.
Um,
It's good
Yeah.
to be able to take what can you take from this to go further with it.
mhm.
That's what viewing the video would help you to work on as far as what you're thinking about.
Yeah, I think it would also be good. I think another piece to take this further is I feel pretty good about what I've done to differentiate the reading. I'm not sure if I've done enough to differentiate for the writing product. So I think it would be important when I get papers in for this. It's only a 1-page paper. My thinking is that they'll have it back in, I don't know, 2 class periods, is to bring some of those in, and maybe we could talk about the student product that came out of this as well.
Okay.
And where I feel like kids are hitting the mark and where I feel like kids aren't, and maybe some of the things that I need to do to scaffold the writing product.
Have you done work with them on what the writing expectations are in the past in the class? Have they done this type of writing before?
We've talked about what it means to take a position, and currently there are I checked with the English department about where they are in position writing, and they've had exposure to it.
Okay, that's just exposure.
They've had exposure to it, and they've done a position paper.
Okay.
To the extent that I fully understand where they are with it or not,
Mhm.
you know, I'm
Not
kind of
sure.
I'm a little uncertain of what my product might be.
Okay.
So,
Well, and it's, to get with the English department is a great idea, and I think that maybe once you have the final product, it might be valuable to go back to somebody in the English department and say, here's what I'm getting is this. How can you give me some support in how to improve the product that I'm getting written out
Okay.
of the class?
great.
And we can talk about that too.
Okay, sounds
Okay,
good.
great. I look forward to the lesson, and I'll see you Thursday afternoon. Do you have any other thoughts? before we
No,
close
oh
out?
well, I know. Should I tell the kids ahead of time that we're going to do a video?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
yes. Tell them
Okay.
that we will be videotaping the class
Okay.
for
Okay.
everybody's learning.
All right, I will let them know.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.